Okay, so I am very excited to introduce you to the author of the Archangel Apothecary, incense, oils, herbs, potions, and prayers for everyday life. Now, I saw one of her recipes on Facebook, which led me on a search for the author and to the book. The Archangel Apothecary, I put it on my Christmas list. So not only did I get this amazing book, I'm honored to introduce our listeners to the author. Reverend Dar Payment has over 30 years' experience as a psychic medium and angel intuitive, and has studied the intuitive arts from a handful of psychic notables, such as John Holland, Lisa Williams, John Edwards, Echo Bodine, and Sonia, and I'm going to butcher this, I can never say her name, Coquette, which we'll ask Dar to pronounce it for me when she comes on. Dar's also a master Jing Q Shin energy practitioner, aromatherapist, and lay herbalist. Dar is the author of several books. Her most recent publication is The Archangel Apothecary, Incense, Oils, Potions, and Prayers for Everyday Life. Her core belief is that you are extraordinary. So her focus is on creating articles, videos, workbooks, books, and workshops that help you to reveal your true intuitive genius, as well as to strengthen your connection with your angels and spirit guides. You can find her on her websites at www.darpayment, that's DARPAYMENT.com, or www.whispers-from-heaven.com. And you can also find her online courses at whispers-from-heaven university.teachable.com/courses. You can find her on Facebook. She's on Pinterest and YouTube. And the best way to contact Dar is by email, and that's darpayment2@gmail.com. So let's invite her to join us now. Hi, Dar.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. And I just thank you for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure.
So I wanted to share with you the rest of the story about getting your book. So I get your book, and I haven't had time yet to look at it, but I had set it on the end table, right, in my stack of I'm going to read that. And I had been searching for a skin cream. Since everything that I use, I have very sensitive skin, and everything I use breaks me out or dries me out. And I'd been searching off and on for, several months and hadn't found anything. It's like, okay, I'm looking for an organic, and I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, but I knew it couldn't have anything added to it. And one day I was guided to pick up your book. And when I opened the book, I just started laughing because the page I opened to was Archangel Jophiel's beauty cream.
Oh.
And I would just sit there laughing, going, thank you, Jophiel. And it made perfect sense with Jophiel being the angel of beauty, right?
Right.
So I just love the way the angels work in our lives and when we open up and invite them in. And it was an amazing thing just when it was happening. And I thought, I have got to share that story with her.
I just love it.
So you've studied under numerous psychics, and you work and teach on the archangels. So how did the concept of working with the angels and essential oils and herbs come about to create the Archangel Apothecary book?
Well, first, in order to answer that question, let me share with you a really quick backstory.
Okay.
I was fortunate to have been mentored in the psychic arts from the age of 6 to 18 by a woman named Michelle Harriet. And when I first met Michelle Harriet, she was in her early 50s. And not only was she a really gifted psychic and psychic medium, but she was also a master herbalist. And around the time that I first met her, Mrs. Harriet and her husband began a home-based mail-order company specializing in their own medicinal plants and herbal remedies, as well as essential oils and flower essences. And so one summer, Mrs. Harriet had a special workshop at her house on how to talk to plants. And I was 16 years old at that time, and Mrs. Harriet invited me to attend the workshop for free, provided that I helped her with the handouts as well as helping her serve refreshments and so on and so forth. But what I found that day really excited me, because not only did I discover that I had a natural ability to communicate with plants, but also that I had a really keen, deep interest in herbal lore. And I'm telling you, I was so excited after the workshop that as I helped Mrs. Harriet clean everything up, I asked her how I could learn more about her craft. And it so happened that the family mail order business at that time had really taken off, which meant that Mrs. and Mrs. Harriet needed someone to help them with their business, you know, preparing and packaging their herbal recipes, you know, as well as helping tend their beautiful gardens. So she offered me the job, agreeing with me to share everything she knew about plant communication as well as herbal healing and lore. And I'm telling you, Dianne, talk about an instant immersion, because for 4 to 5 hours a day, I was literally Mrs. Harriet's shadow. And true to her word, she joyfully shared with me everything about her craft as an herbalist, as well as her knowledge of herbal lore. And so this went on for 2 entire years. So the last summer that we spent together, I was preparing to go off to college, and Mr. and Mrs. Harriet informed me that they sold their thriving business to their grandson and that they were planning on returning to England to retire. So as a parting gift, Mrs. Harriet gave me 2 banker boxes packed full with her notes and journals on plants, flowers, essential oils, and more importantly, herbal lore. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I actually only briefly glanced through the contents of the boxes at that time. I was preparing to go off to college, and I didn't have a lot of time. And I really didn't dig into the boxes until about 6 years ago, after I had rediscovered the banker boxes when my husband and I moved to our new house. But as I was sorting through those boxes, one really worn, very dirty composition-style notebook caught my eye, and written on the cover were the words "Angelic Apothecary." And I was so taken aback. Talk about somebody having angel bumps. I took that notebook out,
I just got
opened
angel
it up,
bumps
and
all
inside
over
that
with you
notebook
talking.
was a handwritten note by Mrs. Harriet that read, "You have my blessings. Pay this knowledge forward with love." And so I'm telling you, the information inside that notebook blew me away. And I expanded on it, I experimented with it, and I added all the various recipes and prayers, which is now my book, The Archangel Apothecary.
Divine timing, yeah, because you weren't ready for it yet. And wow, that is awesome. That is just really awesome. So with that information, was there a particular archangel that you worked with, or a particular angel in creating this work? I mean, I know that you had her notes in the book.
Yeah, I actually began my journey working with my own guardian angels. And what happened when I started putting this information together, reading what Mrs. Harriet had given to me, I actually at that time started working with Archangel Gabriel to give me the knowledge to communicate this and to package it up in a way that, you know, would be beneficial for everybody and something easy. I didn't want something cumbersome. It had to be simple, easy, and ready to use and get you the benefits that you need.
So tell us, how will everyone, not just the spiritual person, but anyone, how can they benefit from the use of oils and herbs and plants and flowers combined with the energy of the archangels?
Well, in a nutshell, just 2 words: accelerated manifestation. You know, the law of attraction teaches us that vibrations, like vibrations, attract like vibrations. And we know that quantum physics teaches us that everything vibrates and has its own unique energy signatures. And when it comes to plants, herbs, and essential oils, this is also true. You know, essential oils, herbs, plants, and flowers each have a unique energy vibration, that a signature that actually can be measured, that affects your mind, body, and spirit, as well as a metaphysical component. So let me give you an example. We'll just use just plain old garden mint. You know, for the physical body, mint can aid with digestion. So the energetic function of mint is one of healing the physical body. But the metaphysical attributes of garden mint is that of money, healing, and protection. But here's the thing. When you combine the energetic qualities and frequencies of essential oils, herbs, plants, and flowers with that of the energetic correspondences of the archangels, magic happens. Because what you're essentially doing is creating something like a supercharged electromagnet that is powered through your own intention and desires. And this high-powered energetic symmetry then allows you to manifest your intentions and desires very, very quickly.
So could you give us, give the listeners an example of that when you talk about the energetic correspondence of the archangels? Can you give us an example of what you mean?
Oh, sure. When we're talking about correspondences in terms of the archangels, what we're talking about is their main function or how they can help you, as well as those things that relate to and resonate with that function. So let's just use Archangel Michael, for example. Archangel Michael's main function is what?
Protection.
Right, protection. Archangel Michael is the angel of protection. And with that protection, he can provide us with courage, strength, confidence, and so on and so forth. So his correspondences would be any gemstones, essential oils, herbs, plants, flowers, prayers, and even colors that correspond to or relate to the energetic function of protection, confidence, courage, and strength. So just for a quick reference, just off the top of my head, we would have, let's see, sandalwood burned as incense, frankincense essential oil, black obsidian or hematite, angelica root, all which relate to or correspond to Archangel Michael's main function of protection, confidence, courage, and strength. And, of course, in the book, there's more of a comprehensive list of each of the Archangel's correspondences, along with tons of recipes and forms that you can choose from, so whatever you'd like. But simply put, the Archangel correspondences are really anything that relates to the particular function of each individual Archangel.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that breaks it down very simple to understand. And if it functions with their specialties, so to speak, and it worked well with that. I mean, I had never even, I use selenite for Archangel Michael, and excuse me, because he's the one who brought selenite in my dream world and told me to build a grid with it, and it was like, okay. And I always say, okay, what do you want me to do? All right, I'll do it. But that's very interesting to me, putting all of the other, elements, if you will, all together into working with Michael. And when you were talking about recipes, I have to tell you that, reading the recipe for Jophiel's beauty cream, it was like, it says an ointment. Well, where am I going to find this organic ointment? And so I'm looking online. I didn't read the whole page, right? So I'm looking online, I'm looking for it, and I'm like, well, I can't find any. And so it's like, I don't know how I'm going to make this. And then another day or so went by, and I picked up the book again, and guess what page it opened to? Your recipe for ointments. Like, oh, goodness. It's got everything in here, guys. I'm telling you. It is an awesome, awesome book. So, and I'm just curious, is there any all-purpose essential oil or plant or herb that would correspond with all the archangels?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Rosemary. I mean, rosemary in all forms can be substituted for any essential oil or herb or flower that you don't have on hand in order to make that recipe. And rosemary is really one of the most important herbs in Old World herbal healing lore, as well as New World in the present day and age. And it's been used around the globe for centuries for healing, protection, money, and love. And in herbal lore, this is kind of interesting, rosemary became linked actually to the Virgin Mary, who is said to have given its tiny little blue flowers when it blooms, when she rested her blue mantle on a bush. And here's something really cool, Dianne, that I just learned just the other day. I learned that ancient Christians, early Christians, believed that rosemary actually echoed the life and consciousness of Christ, growing for 33 years to the height of a man and then perishing. And I'm like, what? How cool is that?
Yeah, that is, wow. I've got angel bumps, and I'm thinking about the shroud and the little blue flowers that were put on the shroud of Christ. And I was never familiar with rosemary until I moved to the Texas Hill Country. And I was drawn to it. Honey, I've got rosemary around all the openings of my home. I've got it planted everywhere. And, of course, that was about the time I was going through. I don't like to use the term awakening. I call it just becoming aware, because we are all awakened to it in my way of thinking, but we just become aware of that communication that we have with Spirit. And and I just found it you're talking about rosemary. I'm sitting here thinking, that's why I got rosemary all over my life. And selenite outside my doors.
There you go.
Oh, gosh. So what are the other ways one can use essential oils and herbs in lieu of just herbal incense and essential oil blends?
Well, you know what? My goodness, there are so many ways. In my book, The Archangel Apothecary, you'll find recipes for lotions, prayer oils and prayer waters, ointments, soaps, teas, sachets, and so much more. But I'm telling you, Dianne, my most favorite are the angel charms. An angel charm is a tiny little bundle of what I call bundle of joy, filled with a special combination of oils, herbs, and often a quartz crystal or gemstone. And there's so many different recipes. And why I like these, the angel charms, is because they're compact and small. So you can put them in your purse, you can keep them in your car, you can put them on your desk, and so on and so forth.
I'm telling you, for all of our listeners, there is just so much in this book. It is, I can't rave enough about this book, and what a blessing it is that you brought this forth, because I had never seen anything like it. And, I have a whole library of books, and I had never seen anything that, gave you the recipes and led you to understand the vibrations and the frequencies of the different oils and how they do, and the different herbs and how they do resonate with the archangels. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because I can't say enough about your book. And
well, thank you. My heartfelt pleasure.
You mentioned that blessing and charging a recipe is an important step. So how do you do that? How is that done?
Well, the blessing and charging your recipes, it's absolutely primal. It's important. And the way that you would do that to bless and charge your recipes is activate the energy inside of your hands, your own bioenergy, right? And it's really easy to do that. Energy healers do this all the time. So what you would do basically, and we can do this right now. I know you're an energy healer, so you already know how to activate this. But what you do basically is just put your hands in front of you, probably about 4 inches apart. And then I like to just clap my hands a couple times. And you briskly rub your hands, probably for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute if you wanted to. And then what you would do, after you did that for a little bit, you would just move your hands about that 4 inch apart. And then you would slowly move your hands in and out, kind of like you're playing an invisible accordion, but you don't want to actually touch your palms of your hands together. And you just kind of move in and out, in and out. And what you would do eventually just notice the sensations between your hands, and you'll notice kind of like a squishy feel or kind of like the repulsion of magnets. You know how you get the two negative ends of the magnets, you try to put them together and they push apart? You'll kind of find something like that in there. And that is activating your own bioenergy, which is also commonly called qi, okay, in the Chinese healing domain, qi. So what you would do there's a whole thing that you need to do that's in the book, but what you basically do to charge it, is wrap your hands around it, and you would activate the ingredients first by saying whatever prayer it was that you wanted to say, because you're infusing, your words are a vibration too. So you maybe choose a prayer from the book, and you say that out loud. And then after you said it, you would just sit there and imagine, after you activated your hands, brilliant white light going into your recipe, in whatever container you have. You have to have the prepared recipe in your hands. And then what you would do is, just as you're infusing it with what I call love and light, you would also just imagine all the wonderful, beautiful, good feelings you would have as if you already manifested that thing that you created that recipe for whatever your intention or desire was for that recipe. And that's basically it. But it's really important, because what you're doing is activating your intention. Your intention activates all the ingredients as well as the universal laws of attraction.
I love that, activating your intention. Because we, as spiritual teachers, we get asked that quite often.
Right.
How do I set my intention? I can't decide what intention I want. What is setting an intention? And so I love that terminology. Activating your intentions. Beautiful. So can you give us some examples of how using the recipes in your book can change someone's mind, their heart, or their life?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm telling you, I have so many examples I can share with you. But right now, at this minute, there are two examples that immediately come to my mind. And the first is with a client who came to me for a reading. And at the time, she was in dire need of selling one of her properties in order to avoid 2 mortgage payments. Essentially, what she did is buy a new house, and she had to get rid of the old house, and it was just a mess. So the first thing we did in her session was to work on releasing the cords of attachment to the house that she needed to release. And then at the end of the session, I just gave her a copy of my book, and I just suggested that she try one of the recipes in the book relating to selling her house or a house. And I'm telling you, Dianne, it was exactly 5 days later when I received an excited call from her telling me that she had made a Archangel Raziel prayer water recipe. And she said she copied down the recipe, copied down the prayer from the book for selling a house. She followed directions as outlined for the basic ritual, and then she blessed and charged her recipe. But this is what she said she did with the prayer water. She said that twice a day, morning and night, she felt led to sprinkle the Archangel Raziel prayer water on the threshold of her house, reciting the prayer for the sale of her home from the book. And here's the thing. She said on the afternoon of the 5th day, she said her realtor called her and told her she had a buyer who wanted to not only pay the full asking price for the house, but also shared with her that these people wanted to move in right away. And I'm like, what? That's awesome. I love how this works, right? But here's the next one.
I was just thinking as 5. 5 is the angel number for change.
Yes,
on the 5th day it happened.
Yes. That is so
beautiful.
Cool. Now, here's a story, and you can tell I'm getting excited because these recipes really work. This next example, I'm getting angel bumps just thinking about it, and it really blew me away. I have a friend, his name is Chris, and he's a motorcycle touring enthusiast. He has one of those big old bikes. They're heavy bikes. He just loves to travel throughout the United States with his motorcycle buddies and explore the country. And he had announced to me that he was going on a cross-country tour with his group the following week. So that evening, because he was staying for dinner with my husband and I made him an Archangel Michael angel charm, which he put in the storage compartment under his motorcycle seat. And he said that he was riding slightly in front. They usually have like one leader in the front and one leader in the back to make sure the roads are safe. So he said he was riding slightly in front of the group on a secluded country road right at dusk. when he lost control of his bike after his front wheel hit a black metal object in the road that he couldn't see. And he said during the impact, his bike flipped and he was thrown on his back on the side of the road. And he told me, he said, I laid there stunned for a few minutes as my friends rushed to come help me. And he said, I felt really freaked out because it literally felt as if somebody had caught me in midair and gently laid me down on the ground. And he said, after my friends removed my helmet and helped me to sit up, I looked down and he said, Dar, there sitting on my lap was the Archangel Michael charm that I had made for him. But here is the amazing thing. He said that although his bike was totaled, he said he was able to get up and walk away without a scratch. And I hear so many stories like these over and over and over again about how quick and effective these recipes and moving prayers are.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Oh, all right. I'm just smiling. So can you give us an example of one of the recipes in the book?
Oh, sure. It just depends on what function you would like. So we can use perhaps, we already talked about Archangel Michael, so let's just choose one from the book right now. Many of us have, kids or grandchildren, and sometimes, their imaginations run away and they think there's like a monster under their bed or something, right?
Right.
One of my favorite, and it really works, I use this on my nephew. It's called Archangel Michael Monsters Begone Mist. And it's super simple. You just get a 4-ounce glass spray bottle, 3 ounces of distilled water, 12 drops of rose geranium essential oil, and 8 drops of lemon essential oil. You put it in the bottle, you shake it up. Now, I know that a lot of people say, well, oil and water don't mix. Well, if you use distilled water and you shake it, yes, it will. It'll dissolve a little bit. It's not going to totally dissolve, but it works. If you don't want to use the distilled water, feel free to use, instead of water, feel free to use witch hazel. That really works well as well. But what I do with that, whenever he comes, I show him it. I spray under the bed. I spray in the closet right in front of him, and I just say a prayer of protection to Archangel Michael and remind my nephew Everett, Archangel Michael is standing right here with this brilliant sword of blue light. And so I give him the magical Archangel Michael mist, and I just stick it by his bed. And ever since he comes here and he's been using it, he says, wow, this is great. He tells his mom, I'm out of that mist. You have to call Aunt Dar and get me some more.
Oh, that's lovely. Lovely, lovely. So tell us, are there any future books that you're working on as far as with the Archangels?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm hearing to ask you about a future book, so I'm asking.
Yes, absolutely. We are working actually on a series, working with the Archangels, using some of the principles in the book, but they're going to be specific to like working with the Archangels.